In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove edge fringes from your photos in Photoshop. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photoshop tutorial. So this tutorial is going to be all about removing edge fringes, and this has probably happened to you when you're trying to quickly remove the background using something like the quick selection tool, and then you add a layer mask and you end up with a nasty edge halo on your layer mask. So I'm going to show you multiple techniques to remove these fringes, and each of these techniques will come in handy depending on your image you're trying to mask. So let's start with the first technique, and that is using the select and mask panel. So let me quickly show that to you. So I have the first example image and I already removed the background using the select subject button, and then I used the refine edge brush to mask the hair and I created a layer mask. But we can still access the select and mask panel. You need to make sure that the layer mask is selected, and then in the properties panel you're going to click on the select and mask button. So now, because I have an on black view, we can clearly see that there is some fringing at the edges. If you're not seeing this view, you can change it from here, and you can also control the opacity of the backdrop. Now we can use the shift slider to shift the edge inside and get rid of that fringing. So this worked really good and it got rid of that fringing, but if we take a look at the hair, you'll see that it completely destroyed the edges of the hair. And this will happen to you if you have a complex layer mask. So we're going to need to do some workaround to avoid this problem. So I'm going to click on cancel for now, and what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer by clicking on Ctrl J. I'm going to turn off the original layer, and in this layer again we're going to click on the layer mask, click on the select and mask button, and then we're going to use the shift edge slider again to get rid of that fringing. Once you're happy with that, you're going to make sure the output is set to layer mask and then click OK. I'm going to also change the solid color to black so you can see the edges a little bit better. And now what we need to do is restore that hair from the original layer. So what I'm going to do is select the layer mask of the original layer, and then I'm going to take the lasso tool, and then I'm going to make a selection around the hair like so. Now all we need is this area of the image, so we're going to invert the selection by clicking on Ctrl Shift I, and then we're going to fill everything else with black. So black is my background color, so I'm going to click on Ctrl Backspace to fill everything with black. Now click on Ctrl D to deselect. And now we have the fringing removed, and we also have the layer mask of that hair intact. So this is an easy way to quickly remove the edge fringing using the select and mask panel. I'm going to show you now a slightly different technique to remove fringing. So on our next example, we have a different image, and this time we have a simpler layer mask, and we also have some fringing that we need to remove. So what you're going to do is load this layer mask as a selection by control clicking on the thumbnail. Now we have our subject selected, and then you're going to go to select, modify, and contract. So I'm going to contract the selection by 2 pixels. I'm going to click OK, and now if you zoom in, you will see that the selection is pushed inside by 2 pixels. And again, we're going to need to invert the selection by clicking on Ctrl Shift I. So now we have everything selected but the subject, and also there is 2 pixels selected of the subject, and that is the fringing that we need to remove. Then you can hide the selection to see a little bit better, and now we can fill the background and also that 2 pixel with black to hide it. So I'm going to click on Ctrl Backspace, and as you can see, by removing those 2 pixels we got rid of that fringing, and now we have a much better layer mask. So this technique worked very well in this image because we have a simple layer mask and the fringing is all over the edges. But in some cases you may want to remove the fringing from certain areas and not the whole image. So in that case, I'm going to quickly show you how you can do that. So I'm going to undo the last step, and if you remember, we still have the selection active. Then we're going to take the brush tool and then make sure the layer mask is selected and also the foreground color is black. And now we can click on Ctrl H again to hide the selection. And then you're going to simply use the brush tool and paint on any areas that you want to remove the fringing from. Let me quickly change my background color to normal again. And as you can see, we can easily use the brush tool to remove that fringing from only certain areas. Okay, so let's move on to the last example. And in this example, I'm going to show you another technique, and that is using the minimum filter. So to do this, you're going to make sure the layer mask is selected. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can show you the edges a little bit better. Then you're going to go to Filter, Other, and then Minimum. So basically, what this filter is going to do is push the edges of your layer mask inside, and therefore it's going to remove the fringing from the edges. In this case, there is 2 pixel radius, and you can use the preview checkbox to see the before and after. So for this image, the 2 pixel radius worked very well in these areas, but in some areas we still have fringes that didn't go away. So we can click OK to apply the changes, and if you want to further remove the fringing from more areas, we can use this filter again selectively. So you can take the lasso tool, and in this case we only want to use this filter in this area. So now that we have that area selected, we can move on to more areas. So in the lasso tool, if you want to add to the selection, you can hold Shift, and then you can add more areas to the selection. And there's also more fringing on this area as well. Okay, so now that we have all of that selected, we can apply the filter again, and you can use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl Alt F to apply the last filter. So I'm going to do that. And we can also do this multiple times until we get rid of that fringing. Okay, now that we have the fringes removed, we can click on Ctrl D to deselect. And we pretty much remove the fringes everywhere except for this area of the hair. And in that case, we can easily fix that using the clone stamp tool. You're going to add a new layer on top, and then you're going to add a layer mask. So everything we paint inside this layer will only be visible inside of the selection. So now we can click on S to take the clone stamp tool, make sure the settings is set to current and below, and then you're going to use Alt to sample from inside the hair and paint on the edges. And as you can see, this will remove any fringes from the hair. And now we can add any background that we want, and the edges will still look very good in darker or lighter backgrounds. So that's how to remove fringing from your images in Photoshop. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know what you think in the comments below, and also subscribe to the channel. You'll also find all the project files in the links in the description below. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.